Yeah, these new policies these politicians trying to implement right now really trying black people, and they can kiss where the sun don't shine. What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are doing good. Well, that's probably is an understatement with all what's going on in the world today. So, like, I just wanted to get on here and talk about accessibility in the 19th century versus accommodations in the 21st century. Because, like, what all I've been seeing on TikTok with, like, I've seen a video about them, they trying to reinforce the Jim Crow laws in the state down south. And what Ron Sanchez, how do you pronounce his names, trying to ban African American curriculum in university that's starting to spread like wildfire in other states within this country. And then that's all kind of started from the ban on critical race theory that they were trying to stop from teaching in school. So it's like real crazy. Like it's like we repeating like a cycle or like things. I don't know how to explain it, but when like we think about at the troops, what's they call the the Yankees or the Soviet Union went into Texas to finally tell the enslaved black people that they was free in 1865. We don't really think about what happened to the black enslaved people that had disabilities, that who couldn't leave the plantation as freely as their non-disabled counterparts because of mobility challenges or cognitive challenges. And either they had to stay on the plantations or was placed in mental medical institutions or was later placed in human zoos or freak shows. Then, and from doing the work that I have been doing for 2+ years, I learned about Antoinette Herrera. So, Antoinette Herrera is a genealogist. She is responsible for writing a book and doing the research of the history of the Black people who was still enslaved all the way up to 1963. So, like, I'm still diving, I'm still learning. So I don't necessarily know if those people who was black people who was still enslaved all the way up to 1963, if they was direct descendants of disabled, enslaved, disabled black people. But I highly suspect they are. But when we going back to 1865 and how the world was then, and thinking about accessibility and inclusion and accommodations, and the word disability wasn't even thought of. And when we have people like Harriet Tubman who free over 70 people from bondage, a lot of times we don't think of her as a traumatic brain injury survivor, as someone who had a disability. Um, um, Damn it, brain fog. As someone who had disability, we often see her as this bigger than life figure, heroic figure. But how often do we think about her as a woman? Like what she was going through, the challenges that she may have. Because when people often talked about the legacy of, and they talk about these sleeping spells that she had, and they gave her these inclination of what would happen. But also being a traumatic brain injury survivor, I associate those sleeping spells with the silent seizures that I have. And so, and just to think about how scared she must have been with not fully understanding what was going on within her body, but knowing that she had to help uh, help people get to freedom. Like, did she have enough time to care for herself and care for like her mental health? And I know, like, as like I'm moving through this journey of being an 18-year on traumatic brain injury survivor, I have learned so much about myself. How in the past I have the tendency to overcompensate, to mask, to put extreme pressure on myself to keep up with an inaccessible society. So when we moving into like the 21st century, and we thinking about the ADA laws, which probably didn't happen until the 1990s. I'm not sure, but a lot of people with disabilities are still getting the same amount of money that they was getting in 1990s, and the same in 2023, with the constant inflation, the cost of living going up, rent, food, and all that stuff. And it's like we still, like, disability is an afterthought. We treat people with disability as a burden, or like they waste to the side, and we still haven't addressed this. And with the government talking about dipping into the SSI fund to help them pay off their debt, and it's like, what's really good? Like, how y'all really feel about people with disability? People who's getting SSI had to manage to make it work with just off of 900, from $700 to $900 a month. It may be $1,200 a month, depending on where you live, because I think they get that amount in California. But that amount is still the same from 1990s, and it's like almost like 30 years later, and society is expecting people with disabilities to live a comfortable, successful, and independent life off of amount of money that's worth nothing nowadays, which I think is like real crazy. So like it's just like so much. And like thinking about this, and like, and even thinking about like, not all people who have disabilities are able to get on SSI. Because I know for me, like back in like 2020, I had reapplied to get my SSI back after I was taken off of it between 2015 and 2016, because they famous quote say like, we overpaid you, and like the crazy stuff they be trying to do. But the reason why I was denied back in 2020 is because they, according to their standards, they didn't deem me as disabled, which bring me to my work and what I'm doing, and my goals in making the film industry more inclusive and accessible for Black women who are neurodivergent and have chronic illness. Because let's be real, like the accommodations and accessibility needs for people who are neurodivergent or have chronic illness aren't necessarily wide known as it's known to have a ramp or one level things to get in, people who use wheelchairs, or to have braille or captioning for a person who's blind, or ASL interpreter for someone who's deaf. But what are the needs, the widely known accessibility needs in accommodation known for people who are neurodivergent and have chronic illness? And from my experience, even working with disability organizations and being within the disability community, and when I like times state something like I'm confused or I need further explanation, or when I say like I need things to be more structured so I can follow along so I can be more productive, people look at me like I'm crazy, like I'm asking for too much. No, I am not. That is an accessibility need for me because I have ADHD, and along with my TBI, and having structure is something that keeps me on task. So like there is just like a lot of work that needs to be done when we are talking about accommodations and assessment needs for people who are neurodivergent or have chronic illness. So I don't know. I think my mind is going blank right now. Wait. I have another thing um, to say. Um, like even when we talking about like the disability community, like I just feel like it's time that we get real about things. The fact that not only is there biases within the disability community, but racism exists in the disability community. I experienced it firsthand with the work that I co-created with a Black disabled collective being appropriated by a white led disability organization out in Hollywood. And like they, because with this Black disabled collective, we co-created Black Future Month, which was a pilot of something that we continue want to see to provide authentic representation for Black disabled people. And what they did is that they submitted Black Future Month without consulting with the Black producers and talents to help them win that diversity, equity, and inclusion awards, and the Black talents and producers receive nothing but scraps. But oh, they tell us like, oh, we've been talking to a lot of executives about Black Future Month, so hopefully bring more opportunities to the Black disabled collective. First, I don't need you to do that because your actions have shown that you're on some backhanded shit and your intentions aren't pure and you're trying to get over. And I don't need you to be some white savior. And it's just like crazy, like what's all going on. I'm glad to see that there's more well, there is some type of disability representation in the media. That's probably like 1%. But how much are the percentages of Black disabled women? I I don't know, but it's very minimum, like probably 0.01%, if that. And I just think like there's so much work that needs to be done. And I think like what Black disabled people need from the disability community and from society and all is to not treat us like we some helpless people, or that we need a white savior complex, because we don't. because the truth of the matter is that I think over like 40% of Black disabled people are unemployed or live in poverty. And what Black disabled people need is like opportunities. We don't need people to decide for us of our worth, what we can and cannot do. Because I know for me, like right after I graduated from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago back in 2018, I went on numerous job interviews. But with me, like, I don't have the privilege of not telling a person about my challenges because I can have a silent seizure at any time. So I like to have like conversation, be upfront with like the employer. But once I start talking about my disability, I started seeing this shift from this welcome energy to this tolerance. Like people think like disability, like it's so expensive to hire people with disability, when that's not the case. Is that we just need opportunity and fair chances like everybody else. But I gotten to the point where I was tired of going on job interviews and begging for people to give me an opportunity. And that's where I took matters to my own hand, and investing in myself and my brand, Black Girl Fire, which I'm still working on developing and building to this day, and building my confidence and learning how to transfer my creative geniusness into building and operating a successful business, which has is still like a challenge for me, but I'm taking it one day at a time, and I'm taking this and taking things slow, and just really want to understand people and build healthy, strong, reliable connections with people. And it's just so much work that needs to be done. But before like I hop off, I want to read the disability resource guide that I co-created, that's called Being Black and Disabled is New Cool, because it's my goal to document disability, art, life, and culture through the Black lens, and to help establish what is disability, art, life, and culture. And to really show that like we popping, and we making it do what it do. Cause I'm just saying, but here we go. Black people have been all about the re since force hair and chains. Yeah, they had us locked in the chain gang. They robbed our humanity, so we had to become all about that re. Hell, hip hop reinvented everything. I'm talking about the core of hip hop, not the stuff being constantly blasted to the masses, not the watered down version of hip hop, not even the commercialized version of hip hop. I'm talking about the roots of hip hop, and at the root of hip hop, you got nothing but blackness. Blackness is all about that read. Black people with disability living in America have a very unique experience compared to any other ethnic group with disabilities. Even after 1865, black people with disabilities were still enslaved because they couldn't leave the plantation as freely as their non-disabled counterparts. It has been documented that the descendants of these black people were enslaved all the way up into the 1960s. Blind Tom Wicks never received the fullness of his talents, but the white people who own him did. Not too long ago, February 2022, a white-led disability organization appropriated the work of a black disabled collective. The white-led disability organization won a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award for Black Future Month, and the black creators received nothing. Funny how history repeats itself. We are taking back our power. We've been here and we ain't going nowhere. Taking up space we shall, and being unapologetic about who we are because it's what we do. This book is dedicated to creating a new era, a fresh and bold new legacy. The new cool is being Black and disabled. Get into and make sure you get some of this coolness. And again, you can access this disability resource guide by clicking on the link in the description above this video and clicking on the tab that says Disability Resource Guide, and you can download a copy of this. This resource guidebook have a lot of tools and resources to help BIPOC people with disabilities to live a comfortable, successful, independent life by having grant opportunities to help them build a business in a artistry, as well as also informing non-disabled people how to create a more inclusive and accessible environment for all. And we just have to remember when we going back to the ADA laws that a lot of time the Black disabled people who helped create that legislation is a race. And the fact that a lot of the wording and the language in that bill comes from the work that the Black Panther Party has done. And the fact when we think about when my ancestors was brought to the shores of America in 1619, that's when like all this Black geniusness was stolen from and was taken advantage of. The very institution of slavery crippled the Black American race. And the fact that when we're going back to slavery times, a lot of times the invention that the Black enslaved people came up with, they never had the opportunity to reap the benefits of their ownerships, but the white slave owner did. And this is just going back to how like over times Black geniusness and creativity has been robbed. Like there are countless stories of Black artists, musicians, inventors dying poor, but film studios, music studios, art institutions continue to reap the benefits of Black geniuses even after they have transitioned to the spiritual realm. And also, when we having conversations about reparation, we need it is so vital that we include the Black disabled population because the very act of slavery had disabled so many Black people from the cruel punishment or the torturing devices that was used to help keep the enslaved Black people in line. So disability is a vital fabric of Black American culture. And the fact the dozens, which is a big part of Black culture, come from disabled, from Black disabled enslaved people because they couldn't work the plantation like they non-disabled counterparts. They would often crack jokes on each other, and that's how the dozens came to be. And it's time that the Black community have a real conversation of why disability is a taboo topic. And we need to stop treating Black people with disability like they nothing. I am mad, but we need to have real conversations and getting the appropriate tools and resources in our community to help people that have disability, that's neurodivergent or have chronic illness, to help them live a comfortable and successful life. Because when you think about it, like all the Black men who are in jail right now that may have ADHD or may be autistic, and we think about if they had access to the appropriate tools and resources to help to lead them to live on another path other than like violence or crime, where would they be? Because some of the most dopest, amazing artists was neurodivergent. Octavia Butler was dyslexic, and she has shifted the world when it comes to Afrofuturism, how she created parallel universes in her writing, and how it still continues to live on, and how her work is continuing to be adapted in graphic novels and film. And there's so many other brilliant artists, inventors, scientists, scholars that have disabilities that may be neurodivergent. And we just need to stop treating Black people with disability like they nothing and start putting some respect on our names, because being Black and disabled is the new cool. In that order, and make sure you get into